Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Today, welcome back an old friend of the channel. This is the second time he's been on, and that is Nischal Shetty from WazirX, India's largest exchange. But we're going to get into all the volumes that they've been doing, how they've been going. I know there's been a lot of, myth truths about is crypto legal in India or what's going on there with the banking system. So we're going to dive into all that today. But I guess first of all, congratulations. I think when we last spoke, you were just about to do your ICO, and that's been wildly successful. I've seen that the token price has been up. So yeah, do you want to maybe give everyone the update on what you've been up to?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Alex, for having me
My
on the
pleasure.
show. Great to be back out here. And I think a lot has happened since the last time we spoke. So I'm happy to get in detail through the episode. Uh, the biggest change that has happened is, of course, we had a successful IEO of WRX. Immediately, I think a month after the IEO, the banking ban in India was lifted. So that was great timing. Honestly, we had no idea that would happen, but I think that fell into place. And after that, the lockdown, uh, the pandemic lockdown in India started in March. So these factors have actually, sort of, I would say, expedited the adoption and understanding of crypto in
Okay.
India, which is very interesting. We can dig deeper into how
Yeah.
that happened. But yeah, on an average, these are like some of the largest changes in India in terms of crypto. And yeah, we recently also announced our entry into
Yes.
DeFi because I think the biggest reason we did that is because DeFi is growing, but in India, that is still very unknown as a segment or as a
Yes.
sector. People do not know much. So our objective is, can we onboard more people in India to the DeFi ecosystem, help them understand and
Yeah.
experience it for the first time. And because WazirX has a large Indian audience, we believe we can do that way better being here in India.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think some people will say, you guys were crazy to even start up this exchange with the banking uncertainty over your heads. And we've been talking to, I think, ZebPay a couple of years ago, and they had to leave India. So I know in the last interview we spoke about how you could technically get around it if you were like matching orders, and it was kind of like a peer-to-peer OTC thing. So was that sort of going to be the main focus, and now that's a very small percentage? And how's that changed with what you can now do with order books and banking relationships?
Yeah. So see, when the banking ban came in, that was in 2018, and we were just about 4 weeks into our exchange being live. While the other larger exchanges had a more difficult time adjusting to this change, for us, because we were new and nimble, we could quickly pivot to the peer-to-peer
Yeah.
trading system. And that worked beautifully for us because we could acquire a lot of people in India who had no
Yeah.
other option. So the thing is, you have a solution and there is no other option. So people tend to find you
Yes.
faster rather than being in a area where there are 10 other competitors. So that worked in our advantage. And eventually in 2020, this year, March, the banking ban was lifted. And we became again the first company in India to integrate banking services. We quickly built it out and launched it in India, and people started using that. Now, this banking definitely has become larger for us compared to peer to peer, but peer to peer is still ongoing. And I think even in the peer to peer segment, we are still the largest in India in
Yeah.
terms of volume. We don't disclose our volumes, but it's in the millions of dollars
Yeah.
volumes, and it's going well for us. So yeah, we'll continue to innovate in the peer to peer, but I think the larger growth is in the direct banking integration, the fiat channels that you
Yeah.
have in a country. So that's where our major focus is
And
right
just to step back a little bit, India was one of the first countries to ban high denomination cash notes, and I'm not sure where it's at if they phased out the most of cash now. But how did that affect the economy at the time? Is that still something that there's a lot of people that are being unserved, particularly in like the more remote areas? And is that just like an option that is just begging for crypto to come and like help those people out?
See, the banking, it's a mixed view about the note, the currency notes being
Yeah.
devalued. It's a mixed review. Some people are still against the very idea that it happened, and some are of the opinion that it helped flush out a lot of the black money that we call, which is
Yeah.
unaccounted capital. probably was flushed out of the system. So having said that, I think in most part of rural area, the problem of unbanked still exists, and it's a large problem. The government in India has done a lot, by the way, to bring on the unbanked into the banking system. But India is such a huge country with such a diverse set of problems that even now, I think there are at least 300 to 400 million people in India without banking services or
I was going
banking
to say,
access.
what's the
And
percentage of like roughly of people that are banked and like mobile banking and unbanked? So it's around 30-40% ish, you're saying?
yeah, probably 30 to 40%. Again, there's no exact data around, but that's the range. And the problem with banking is you need physical infrastructure in every area to serve the unbanked. Whereas the beauty about your online is you need internet. And if you look at the internet data in India, the last 12 months, the number of people who have onboarded to the internet is far greater than the number of people who are getting new
Yeah.
bank accounts, which means the internet penetration is higher than your financial infrastructure. So I believe that as this internet penetration grows, the easiest way for people to come into the financial infrastructure is crypto and whatever online exists. So I'm a big proponent of the fact that India will onboard in large numbers onto crypto, and that inflection point has to come. It's not come yet, but when it comes, I'm sure everyone will know about it, because you'll see millions of people getting onto the whole crypto ecosystem.
Yeah, I
That will
think
happen.
China was even a little bit of a different country in 2016 when they first announced capital controls, and that really started a Bitcoin boom. You've seen South Korea, but then people just forget the populace, as you say, 300, 400 million people that are unbanked. They can all download, what percentage of those people would you say would have a smartphone? If they're in the more remote areas, would that still be a pretty high percentage or would it be very low percentage?
No, I think right now the smartphone penetration is getting higher because smartphones are being made really affordable, especially because of a couple of companies in India whose objective is to get a smartphone to everyone in the country. So the smartphones are like, I don't know, but I think less than 20, $30. That's the approximate cost of a smartphone made available to people. So yeah, the smartphone penetration is
It's
getting
another
higher and
thing that we
higher.
forget when we go in, and there's the iPhone for 1,000, or the Android for $900, and there's these people that don't care about brands or can't afford brands that are getting these phones for $20 or $30. It's truly amazing. And as you say, they've got. I was really hoping that was the answer, that these 300-400 million people that are unbanked, it's only the only thing that's separating them from downloading it is this app, is education, and knowing that they could buy a stable coin and
Yes.
that they could actually have US dollars. And to them, that's almost like, I was explaining this to someone the other day, to them Bitcoin is another step once they understand concepts of scarcity and whatnot. But for them, it's almost like gold, being able to get their hands on US dollars, isn't it? Let alone their own currency.
Yeah, I mean, see, think about it. Until now, if you thought about foreign exchange, at least in India, that's like the rich man's job, or the people, the elite who get access to all these foreign currencies. And here you are telling that anyone with a smartphone can get access to a stable coin and own currency of any country. I think that's incredible if that can happen, and if we can educate people about this fact, that's going to be a great thing for
If you
them.
need me to make a tutorial and you can guarantee it's going to get 400 million views, I'll make it for you, Nischal. I
For
think
sure.
it's as you say, it's a rich man's thing. But if you go to Western Union, it costs $30 to send that money across a border. So anyone, and what $30 is a monthly wage in some areas in India, I take it. So it's just
Yeah.
that's why there's that separation. And we're sort of saying to people last night, talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum fees averaging $4 and getting up even higher. Litecoin is still 1 cent. So there's still plenty of ways for people to send payments, and hopefully the Lightning Network and some of these scaling solutions on Ethereum. There's already talk about getting stable coins on Amisa Go or on Loopring, and hopefully they're going to become free. So stable coins are instant and free payments. But just all this stuff, it's just so awesome what's happening under the hood. And you guys have kind of at your fingertips have all these people. Is there anything like specific you've done for partnering with Matic, or is that a kind of different area of DeFi you want to get into?
So, see, the objective was that there's a lot of development in the whole DeFi space, and while Ethereum is like the at the center of it right now, I believe that we've seen this happen in the previous, let's say 2017, 2018 uh, era, where there are one or two large ones, and then there are a lot of adjacent
Yeah.
blockchains that emerge, and people found new use cases for them. So I see similarly something happening in the DeFi space, where there will be adjacent blockchains which will also gain traction rapidly. And I see Matic to be one of those players where we can bet on. So the idea is, let's be one of those early ones on Matic to start with, so that as adoption increases, we can be the one of the early AMM protocols on Matic, that's the thought we went
It's
ahead with.
Matic is such an interesting one because for me it got a little bit overhyped and got a bit of a bad name when they had those sort of pump and dump issues and a lot of traders were jumping on it. And then I sort of looked into it a little bit more and I was like, this is very interesting. They're using Plasma, similar to a Michigo network, but they're also using like a hybrid with proof of stake. And then I've read that they're getting into the gaming sector, which I'm so bullish on. I think gaming is the next DeFi. But yeah, that is one that's I think really, really interesting that might come back onto people's radar because it's hard. You get a bad name in crypto, and I think even the Indian dev team were a little bit sort of, you could tell that they were worried what was happening, and I don't think they responded well at times, and they're probably innocent, didn't have a lot of a bad part to doing it, to be honest. So I don't know how much or any thoughts you've got on all that.
So see, the thing is, a lot of, especially for the development team and the founders, what comes naturally is building companies and building products. And what does not come naturally is how do you manage the expectations, the short-term expectations of traders? Because this is usually what you experience when you IPO in the traditional world. And by that time, you have executives, you have a lot of people. So the founders and the teams are insulated from all these market expectations. But what has happened in crypto, if you see, is that the founding teams are now put out in the open immediately. As soon as you launch a feature and you don't even have users, you have investors, public investors, people who know you, who can talk to you, who can message you on every channel that you exist. So it can get difficult for people to manage those expectations. My feedback always to people is ignore those short-term noise, signal, whatever you call it. Focus on your product. In the long term, I think your investors will be happy if you perform. So I just tell everyone that ignore the short-term, all that. That's a lot of things. I hear that for myself all the time, but that can't stop you from doing what you're doing. You get 10 bad comments on your video does not mean you're not going to make your next video. You're just going to keep building. That's what we all do.
I think it's funny because some of the projects that did no marketing and got criticized for that a year or two ago, that was the right decision because it is just so much better when you come out and build and get the attention from your tech or your product versus going the other way around. And anyway, I think there's so much learning that happens in the crypto space for everyone, from a developer, a project lead to the investor, and that's what makes it so interesting. Anything that you've learned along the way, or I guess road bumps? You've already had the banking, I guess, hiccups and whatnot, but anything else interesting that's happened?
See, when you run a startup, there's a ton of learning that comes in. But I think if I was to restrict it to the crypto ecosystem, one of the things I've learned is all of us, we have to be ready for change in crypto, and not just regulatory, but even technological changes. Who would have thought that DeFi would have grown this big, this fast? It happened we're talking in the last 4 months, I think, where all the efforts have come in and the boom has just begun. And you don't know what the next tech is going to be, and it might be in the next 2 to 3 years again. So the cycle for new tech in the crypto ecosystem, that's reduced drastically. So I think as entrepreneurs, we have to keep our eyes open. We cannot just keep building in our own area, not understanding what will be left behind, and the rest of the world is going to move ahead with a new tech in crypto. So crypto seems to be that rapid innovation cycle right now, and I think you should just keep your eyes open for new stuff in this sector.
Yeah, it's the way that I tell people that I go about my investing is planting seeds, and I've got about 30 good projects where I believe they're good, and you can't time like where the focus and the narrative is going to go. You could just as easily argue that all these gaming projects are awesome and they're ready to onboard a heap of users, but the focus is on DeFi and it might stay there for a year before gaming booms. And then we might have, something else that pops along, but a lot of this tech is already there and bubbling along. And sometimes the excitement brings the users and that brings more money and then they can hire more devs. So it's almost like where the narrative goes determines what happens next, which is so interesting.
Right. But I think, all of this, if you look at it, what is happening, the advantage of all of this is the fact that the crypto ecosystem in general is growing. It doesn't matter what technology is booming and where people are going. Ultimately, what is happening is there's more education about crypto across the globe, and there is more participation. As every boom cycle, you see 10x more participation. And I'm saying that from data because I see the number of signups on our exchange, the number of people who are, the new people who are coming in. It's directly proportional to a new technology booming in crypto. So I think it's great for the ecosystem in general.
Before you said you don't share your volumes publicly. So in the past, I've done analysis. I think it was early 2018. I did a comparison of like Binance token to KuCoin and Buybox and whatever else was around. And that ended up being good fundamental analysis and those exchange tokens did well. At the moment, I like FTX and they've done some innovative stuff. So do you guys, I think you do have like the token burn system. So when you say you don't share your volumes, I'm just trying to say...
So no, we share our exchange volume. It's just a peer-to-peer P2P volume.
That's what I was going to ask. Okay.
So the regular spot exchange trading volumes, those are public. I think right now we are doing about $8 million a day in India. We were doing less than $1 million about 4 or 5 months ago. So we've grown 8x in volume in the last 4 to 5 months.
And so one of the things I want to do is analysis of your daily volumes versus market cap to other exchanges and see where it is. But one interesting.
Sure. So I want to add something. To add something there. The analysis that usually is done is you look at the trading volume and then you look at the market cap. And there's a gap. But one of the things to see is at what stage is that market where you're doing the analysis. So for example, the stage of US is a more developed market where, if you look at the volumes, they paint the right picture. But if you were to look at the US market in, let's say, 2013, 2014, when just Coinbase and a few other exchanges existed, you would have looked at the potential that it has in the future, which is based on the number of people signing up on that exchange. So right now in India, what is happening is we are in the stage of the acquisition of users. The volumes are probably directly proportional, but there's a lot of volume potential that has to be unlocked in the years to come. But what has to be done today is acquire as many users as possible, because when they decide to finally trade, they are going to trade on the exchange where their accounts already exist. So how we see, while we see volume as a growth factor for us, what I'm most excited about is WazirX, for example, today is like the largest in terms of user acquisition in the country. We see thousands of daily signups, and these are all KYC users. And when they decide that they want to trade, I know that the fastest for them would be WazirX because they already have an active account. It's like you have the option to open a bank account, but you don't have money today. I would still acquire you, saying when you have a money, you will eventually put that money into your bank account that you open with me. So that's the similar mindset we are going in the India market today. We are acquiring the users.
I was going to say, I'm kind of glad because I was kind of going to take the conversation that path that in my analysis in a country like India, it would almost be, again, that monthly wage thing that we're talking about. So I might say, they're doing X amount of analysis per user, but if they're doing $30, that's a month's wage compared to someone in America doing a month's wage of volume. And that's where the growing middle class in China and India, and you can take those things into account. When you sign up on, say, Coinbase or somewhere else, sometimes they give you $10. Like, do you guys have anything like that? Because I imagine like that would just be insane, the amount of people, like the amount of wealth that would be. Or do you just give out like $2 and that's big for them?
So we did something like this in the initial days where we gave away WRX. We reserved 15% of the WRX supply for our early adopters, of which we gave away 11%. So we still have 4%, and now we are figuring out the next phase on how to distribute that in the right way. And now it has value. Back then, when we were giving, it was not listed. Nobody knew how much it would be. So some people ended up earning a ton of tokens in the initial days, and I'm very happy about that fact because those were our early believers in our product. But yeah, now the next announcement would be where we have priced it in, where it might be $5, $10. We are still figuring out what's the right, I would say, minimum giveaway so that we can acquire maximum people in the country. So we're still figuring that out.
And the price I had a look before was around 14 cents. I think the highest it got was 20 cents. But what was the ICO price or IEO?
I think it was $0.02. I think 2 cents.
2
probably.
cents. That's right. So it's done around a 10x at its max.
Yeah. It's about 6 to 7x. 10x was the max, I guess. Right now it's at 6 to 7x.
And that you think that? I mean, I'm just
The funny thing is, like I said, we've grown our volumes by 8 times. But it's not always do your efforts reflect the prices in the short term. But I believe in the long term, it all balances out.
Of course,
eventually.
Of course. And do you think that is going to, like, even if you just were to give $2, $3, $4, the people that you're targeting, they hear about that in the, not the slums, but I'm just talking, the network effects that, there's this exchange and they're giving out money and all you need to do is sign up with your smartphone. And most people have got an ID in India these days. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And see, that's what right now in India, in terms of crypto, I would say it's a large market that you can capture. And it's a new market. You're not in a crowded market where you're competing for eyeballs or for attention. You could just go your way, and every person you meet is a potential crypto user. So it's an amazing thing. You just have to focus on how do you go about in the right way, because you could give away $10 and see 100,000 signups, but would they be the right kind of people? So we're trying to understand that in the right way. We just don't want to throw money and show you some number which ultimately does not convert. So we have to play that well, because otherwise we can just announce that we got 100,000 signups in like 20 days. But does that translate to some volumes on the exchange? That's also important in the short term.
In terms of, I know, like idols and that, and cricket's massive in India, and I love cricket, and we've sort of spoken about that a little bit in our last interview. I know in India there's a lot of they get the Bollywood stars or the actors to promote even things like, just smartphones, because that's very cool, whereas it's a bit different in Western society. And I don't think we've really got a lot of like idols and super positive influences for crypto. Like there's the John McAfee's of the world, or day trader Dave now. I don't think there's too many Andreas Antonopoulos and Eric Voorhees, and that kind of worries me a little bit. I wish we had more like really positive idols. But would you guys do a marketing campaign with like the Bollywood stars, or would you get like, a cricketer that's a superstar to talk about crypto and those things like possible? And would that be a good product market fit?
We would eventually do that, but I think it's still too early right now. I think the biggest reason being the regulatory framework is not in place. And, so before we do something, we as an industry in general want to build up the regulatory framework in India. So what we are doing as an industry is we are all part of a committee out here, like a organization where we are planning to bring a code of conduct for every exchanges to follow. The thing about going mainstream quickly is these if you get a celebrity to talk about Bitcoin, it's not like all the 100% of the traffic will you capture. The people will start searching, people will start finding new ways to buy Bitcoin. And the problem is there can be scams, there can be unwanted consequences. And that will tarnish the image rather than, build it up. So what we want is we should have some regulatory framework in place before we go mainstream with the advertisement and stuff. Until then, we know how to go to the right people who are educated about crypto up to a certain extent. Because all said and done, we don't want to create more negative, outcomes out here in India. It's very sensitive in terms of regulatory
Yeah. I
aspects
mean,
right
I'm
now.
very familiar with all that. I was on the board of Blockchain Australia for 2 years and talking to regulators from everything about just the rules and exchanges. We've got a framework. I mean, you guys should look at that and get ideas from that. Taxation on it as well. And all the banks wouldn't deal with any exchanges, even in 2013, 14, 15. So I know exact problem. And that's why they brakes were slammed on in like Korea and China and that, because it got too big, and all of a sudden the pyramid schemes take off and people are hearing about, oh, they're making this much money in this many weeks, and it's good until the pyramid collapses, and then regulators say, oh, it was Bitcoin that collapsed. They don't understand it's a pyramid scheme. So you definitely want to avoid those things as well.
Exactly, and I think as an industry, we all have to work towards it. Because if we all consciously take the right steps, I think we can all then build a positive outcome for this
Absolutely.
ecosystem. So we are doing our part in India.
And the trading volumes or the number of users, what percentage of that is mobile compared to like desktop computers?
That's a great question, and it's a large percentage. So mobile, I think it's about 70% for us, where 70% of our users, right from signups to active traders to volumes, all of this is mobile, about 70, and then the rest is web.
I would have thought it would be higher. I'm just trying to think. I wonder if that's a result of maybe slightly wealthier people that have a good, big house and computer. Whereas as you expand out and capture more of the population, more people will be mobile only in the population. Is that right?
Yeah, like the last 3 to 4 months, the number of people signing up, that's way higher on
Yeah.
mobile now. And see, the thing is, the first wave is always, the people who are aware about things and they're been into crypto, and that's usually the desktop,
Yeah.
users. Eventually, as it goes more mainstream, I'm sure we'll go from 70% to maybe 80% mobile and 20% web. Eventually, that will happen.
And,
But yeah, right now, I think 70% on mobile is still a very healthy number to
yeah.
look
Yeah.
at in a financial product.
And what are the big pushes, the big marketing campaigns, the big problems that you're solving for people? Is it like we spoke about, $30 Western Union? Now you can do that for whatever, 1 cent. Is it a lot of these Indian businesses that are unbanked? In Australia, we're having all the big banks shut down their rural branches, and I was tweeting at the banks yesterday, and you were saying you've got the problem where you don't have them. Well, in Australia, that they were there, and now they're closing down to save money. So, what are the sort of big opportunities there? Is it just the stuff we always talk about, or is there anything else that's interesting?
No, so like at least for us, what we are seeing, more than pushing the narrative, we're trying to understand what is leading people to come to WazirX, for example. And we are seeing a number of like two major segment of users. Is first is this, in this pandemic, the lockdown, a lot of people have lost their
Mm,
jobs, and they're trying to find new ways to invest and make money online while they're
mm.
sitting at home, and finding their next job. And they're coming across cryptocurrencies. They're understanding they could invest a bit and try to trade and make some money off of that. So that's a large percentage of our users today who are signing up. The second is, because you're at home, either you might ideally have more time on hands right now compared to before, because you're sitting at home. So people are trying to learn new stuff, and they're coming across cryptocurrencies in India. So these two are like the largest segment of users we are seeing. The third is all of those people who stopped trading and being involved in crypto after the banking ban. And because the banking ban was lifted on the 4th of March, we are seeing a ton of reactivation happen. So people who knew about crypto, then they stopped thinking about crypto in 2018, because two very important things happened in 2018. One was the bull run came to a stop, and we were entering a
Yeah.
bear market. The second is the banking ban. So two bad things happened in 2018, and now two good things happened, which is the banking ban was lifted, and there was a lockdown, so people were at home. And the third thing that is happening right now is the DeFi boom that
Mm.
we are seeing in general. So all of this is adding to more and more people coming to crypto right now in
And
India.
what percentage are they like Bitcoin versus stablecoin with WazirX? What sort of tokens do you guys offer, and what are the percentages? Yeah.
So I think the highest is Bitcoin at over 50% of the people. They are involved in Bitcoin. And the way I've seen this progression happen is almost everyone who signs up for the first time and enters crypto, they end up buying Bitcoin. and then they slowly understand the other alts in the system, and then they start trading in a few of the top altcoins, and then they trickle down. So it's more like your the top of the funnel with a large audience
Yeah,
is Bitcoin, and then it drills down to single percentages for most of the
for sure.
altcoins. But yeah, that's how I think it's the same behavior globally,
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, and it's
Um,
kind of,
you all start
I
with
think on
Bitcoin.
average, it's just where we tell most people to get started. Just start with Bitcoin, and then stick to large caps until you want to know how to do your own research and all that kind of thing. Um, any other like utilities that are specific for WazirX? I'm not a huge fan of like launchpad stuff unless there's a lot of talent. Like unless there was a lot of cool Indian projects. Or is there anything unique that you've got planned?
See, the thing is, right now, this whole AMM protocol that we're trying on Matic Network, that's the first of the many initiatives we want to
Yes.
start. The idea is WRX is going to be
Yep.
that token. So we don't want to come with a thought that we'll have 10 different types of tokens for 10 different types of projects. We want to go, and we are learning this more or less from BNB,
Yeah. Oh,
for
yeah.
example, how you saw the Binance
And
ecosystem expanding.
FTT.
I want to replicate Yeah, so I want to replicate something like that for WRX, and with our focus being the India market, because it's a large market and it's a growing one, and it's the early days. So I'm very bullish on the India market in terms of crypto adoption. So I'm going to make sure that we build products for the India market, and market it in the right way out here in India. That's the objective
Yeah,
for
there's been
us.
some really interesting experiments and tweaking of how to do the automatic market making, and I think Bancor were a really good example of how they breathed life back into their token. People that have redone their token economics, Synthetics, Kyber, Aave, the list just goes on, and you guys have just got so much potential in terms of once those things are easily integrated, people in India being able to borrow money without the bank, if they can save up, even $10 and earn a dollar, a dollar for them is a lot of money and earn that interest. So we talk about this big wealth transfer from the old world and the Warren Buffetts into this new world, but I think it's like a global shift. If we could just take a like 1% or less of that wealth and that interest on the wealth that we're generating and putting it into India, it's just so much would be possible, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and I think that's the exciting part about this whole crypto innovation that I see is that wealth is going to be more liquid in terms of movement from one country to the other. Before it was so much more difficult. Now, if you see, you get the same interest rate as I do if we were to
Yeah.
lend online. That never happened before. So I think that's magical. It's never happened before, and we are seeing it happen, and we are in the middle of it. I'm sure great things are going to happen. Just like the internet opened up the world, removed the geographic boundaries. The financial geographic boundaries are being removed by all these crypto initiatives right now. So what you're saying is, such thesis will start playing out. What happens when your money is freely available across
Yes.
geographies? Uh, I think that's going to be very
Have you seen
interesting.
the US dollar milkshake theory where people are talking about other countries with debt denominated in dollars? Have you heard this theory or?
No, no,
Oh, so
not
it's
not
so in
really.
like macro world of global finance, the US dollar is the reserve currency. All these developing nations have a lot of their debt denominated in US dollars, and when their currencies fall, all of a sudden they owe more US dollars, and now the Fed are having to open up what they call these swap lines and inject money directly into these countries, and it's getting to be a problem that US dollar is so strong and that money can only flow through the banking system. So they call it this the US dollar milkshake, where all these countries have got a straw and they're sucking out the dollars, and the dollar keeps getting stronger. And I've kind of got this theory, this joke that I came up with called the digital Thickshake theory, because now that everyone's got a smartphone and crypto, there's no straws into the US. It's just this global system where everyone's got a way to send each other money, and it flows beautifully. Like you just said, it's liquid and it flows, and it's making that old system with banks and that just look like a thick shake that no one can suck through the straws with. And yeah, I completely agree with what you said, but that's just the analogy that I've come up with for people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
interesting.
think we've touched on a lot of very interesting stuff. I've really enjoyed that. Is there anything else that you guys have got on the roadmap or happening in India? I mean, what extent? It's pretty bad, isn't it, at the moment? Complete lockdown for COVID in India.
Yeah, because the number of cases has been increasing day on day. We are seeing like a new all-time high in every week or every day now. So we've been having like a really strict lockdown, and that's both that's frustrating people right now sitting at home, but we all understand it's needed because we are a large country with a large population, and the numbers could have been worse,
Mm.
I would say, compared to now if we did not have a lockdown. So, but we are all waiting to see what's next. But I believe we'll all have to learn to live with this, take precautions, and step out rather than just being under a lockdown. So hopefully, there's word that next month the lockdown will ease out, and people will be allowed to go out. Uh, so let's see. But yeah, right now we are
Yeah.
under a
I mean,
lockdown.
as a medical professional, I honestly think we're going to learn a lot, and there might even be some like subtle genetic differences and places that have got different diets or had different viruses before. I think it's all going to play a role because it's almost a surprise to me that the high density areas haven't been ravaged more by this if it really was so contagious. And I know people have got masks and they're taking measures and whatever, but yeah, the fact that it's gone
Yeah.
through some countries and not others, and it's just so interesting. And we're going to learn a lot from all the data in the next 12 months.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's too early to even understand what is happening for
Mm,
people right now. But in the next few months, there'll be some surprising revelations coming. Like you said, why is the high density area not really worse
mm,
affected? Technically, it should
absolutely.
have been. So let's see what the data
Awesome.
says.
Well, I think you made our top 10 interviews of last year, and I reckon this one's going to be up there again this year. So we'll have to catch up with you
Uh-huh.
again next year and see how it's all going. But thanks so much for joining us today, mate.
Sure. Thanks a lot for having me on the show, Alex.
Cheers,
Have a
guys.
good day.